Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today's is a good one. I've gotten a lot of comments lately regarding different ways to save money, whether there's baits that are useful in many different situations, just different ways for people to limit tackle. Several of these questions were kind of brought about by kayak anglers and bank anglers who only have a limited amount of tackle that they can carry. And truthfully, I've even really started paring down my tackle in my boat. I've gotten to the point where I like to have like one box for each situation. So whether that's a topwater box, a crankbait box, but it also is for terminal tackle as well. Like I've got one jig head box, I've got one box that's got weights in it, I've got one box that's got like different worm hooks, and they're smaller boxes. But the reality is, I've really tried to cut back on the amount of tackle that I carry for several reasons. One, it's a lot of additional weight that I don't necessarily need in the boat. It's a lot of time in terms of like finding everything. And when I'm fishing a tournament, I like to be very efficient. So the last thing I want to do is have to go through 20 different boxes to find what I've got. So I'm more efficient. It's very cost effective to have baits that work in several different situations or have hooks or different pieces of terminal tackle. I mean, that's one reason I talk all the time about the Berkeley Pit Boss. I love the Pit Boss, but I can use it for everything from trailers to Texas rigs to wobble heads. I mean, it's one of those baits that I love for lots of different situations. So it allows me to pare down the amount of tackle I need. So I'm always looking for ways to limit the amount of tackle that I need to carry. I'm looking for those items that will make me more versatile because those specific pieces of tackle are more versatile. And that's what all these questions are about. If you could have one jig head, what would it be? If you could have one bait, what would it be? And the reality is, I don't know if I'll ever get to a point where I can only have one bait or one jig head or one, crankbait, whatever. I need to have different tools for the situation. But having said that, you can pare it down to where you only need a couple of each thing. So what I want to tackle today is one of what I consider to be the most versatile jig heads. This was a question again from the viewer who wanted to know what's my favorite jig head. Well, the reality is most jig heads are designed for a specific purpose, meaning if you've got a swim bait head, it's probably only really good for a swim bait. If you've got a tube hook, well, they're made for tubes. So it's hard to find jig heads that are very versatile. But I do have one for you today that I've almost completely gone towards for most of my finesse action. And I talk about it a lot on the channel, but I want to give you a little bit more background on it and kind of let you know why it's so versatile and the different techniques that I like to use it in. Before I do get into that, I do want to remind you that if you want to support the channel and you're looking to purchase tackle, because we all do need more of it because we're all addicts, uh, and you're shopping at Tackle Warehouse, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link for that. I'll put that in the video description. Also, I do have a members only page. So if you're looking for more content, we do additional videos on a monthly basis. We've got a monthly live stream, different ways for you to contact me with your questions directly. So check that out too, because that's on the page as well in the video description. All right, so the jig head that I want to talk about today that I consider to be one of the most absolute versatile jig heads is this guy right here. This is the Berkeley half head jig. It's got a laser sharp hook in it. It's got some stacked cone keepers, which I am partial to. And then it's got a basically what I would consider to be a half moon shaped head. It's not perfectly half moon shaped, but it is very much a half moon shaped head with a 90-degree hook eye on it. So there's a lot of different things that I do with this. And this jig head has really taken over the role of most jig heads in my box. And I'm gonna give you the reasons behind it. So this was developed to be a versatile jig head, but I think most people tend to use it as a Ned rig. It works wonderfully as a Ned rig head, and they come in 1/16 ounce, which is one of my favorites for net head specifically, all the way up to 3/8 ounce. So they have a wide array of different sizes, which allows it to be more versatile. But As a Ned rig head, it's absolutely phenomenal. It's got that shape that just works well, allows the bait to glide, allows it to spiral and have its motion. And because you can have it in a 16th ounce or a 3/8 ounce, you can cover the gamut with respect to Ned head. So that's pretty much what it's known for, in my opinion. But the reason I like it so much isn't because it's a great Ned head, it's because it's a great jig head for a lot of other things. So earlier in the video, I mentioned tube heads. Well, one thing that I love to do, and one major trend that we've seen over the last couple of years, is these small tubes. So this is a 2 3/4 inch tube. You know, they're just very small tubes. And from that standpoint, it's hard to find tube jig hooks that work for them. A lot of times the gap or the actual hole inside the tube is small, and at the same time, the hook shanks are either too long or, well, you generally don't find them too short because this is a newer process. And the couple of jig heads that are out there for small tubes, in my opinion, are a little bit stout, especially if you want to use this on spinning gear. So for me, the half head, which you can see here, just so you know it is a half head, is an extremely good micro tube head, which to me is one of the best new trends that we've seen. It's actually not a new trend if you're around the Great Lakes, but it's kind of spreading now around the country. But when people, here's a tip for you. When a lot of people talk about fishing tubes for smallmouth, they're talking about small tubes. They're not talking about big tubes. So I love the half head as a tube jig head. Now here's a little background too. So this is now on a small 3.3 power swimmer, so it fits perfectly in your small 2.8 or 3.3 swim baits. As a little background, before the guppy head, before I helped design the guppy head with Dirty Jigs, what I used was an old gopher tackle uh, half moon shaped head. It was very, very similar to this. So to me, it's a great design for swim baits. I love a 90-degree hook on my small swim baits. And because it's a stout, super sharp hook, it's perfect for it. So if you're looking for a jig head to use on small swim baits, the half head is one that works wonderfully with them. And again, it's also got that stacked cone keeper, very similar to the Dirty Jigs Guppy head, which has my name on it. And then the last one has to do with a technique that's kind of disappearing a little bit, and that's shaky heads. I love to use this Berkeley half head on shaky heads and small worms. So, you know, this has been something I've been doing a lot lately is throwing the larger size max scent flatworm. This is the 4 1/4 incher, and I'm using it on the little half head just as if you would use a shaky head. But you can use your robo worms if you want to use your trick worms, whatever it is, they all fit perfect on the half head. So it's great for that as well. It's just one of those hooks that you can buy a couple of packs of and pretty much cover the gamut when it comes to all of your different finesse presentations where you need a jig head. Most baits aren't like that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you to take a guppy head and use it as a Ned head or use it as, you know, in a tube jig. I mean, you could make it work if you wanted to, but it's not an ideal hook. Every one of these situations, that half head works wonderfully. Like, it's not like I'm just saying it kind of gets away with it. It really works great. You know, and that's one of the things. Most Ned heads don't necessarily work great for some of the other things. You know, if you wanted to take some of like the Z-Man finesse shrooms heads, I love them for fishing Neds, but I wouldn't take this and put it in a swim bait. It's got a little bit too small of a gap, a little too light wire for me. Just doesn't work as well. You know, so most other jig heads are kind of designed for a specific technique. In this case, the half heads really were designed with all of these techniques in mind, and that's what's made it one of those versatile hooks. So if you're looking to pare down on the amount of tackle that you carry, if you want to save a few bucks by not having to buy 20 different styles of jig heads, I really think you need to look into the Berkeley half heads. And like I said, they come from 16th ounce all the way up to 3/8 ounce. So you pretty much can cover the gamut with them. I really feel very confident that you'll be satisfied if you give these hooks a try. Because for me, they've pretty much taken over most of my light jig head action. So if you enjoyed the video, guys, if you found this helpful, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. We'll have new tip video coming out tomorrow for you.